Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CFRE exam webinar. I am so excited that you are with us today. My name is Ashley Gatewood. I'm the Communications and Marketing Director at CFRE International. I know a lot of people have questions about the CFRE exam, some trepidation. We're going to get under the hood. We're going to look at everything you need to know to set yourself up for a successful exam experience. I am very fortunate today that I am joined by my two colleagues, Paul and Christine, on the back end, and they are going to be answering your questions. Feel free to type any questions you have into the question pane. They'll answer them live, and then we're also going to stop periodically in the presentation and address some of the more common questions coming in. We have a link for you to start your application. If you haven't yet started your application, I'm going to put it through the chat here so that you can do that. It's free to begin your application. You can listen to me while you start filling it in if you like, but just know I've put that through the chat. So if you haven't yet begun your application, now is a great time to do it. It's the beginning of the year, resolutions, all that good stuff. I will be sending you a link to the recording in about 24 hours to the email address that you used to register, so keep your eye out for that. And then we often get the question, what does the application cost? So the way it works is you complete your application and then you submit it with payment. So when you're ready to submit your application, we have a rate of $700 if you are a member of a participating organization. That's an organization that we work with so that all of their members get a 20% discount on the application fee. If you are a member of AFP, AHP, the Canadian Association of Gift Planners, Charitable Gift Planners, the full list of 30 is on our website, but you will enjoy that preferred pricing of $700 as opposed to the $875 fee. All right, so I'm going to dive in and talk to you about the CFRE credential in general, briefly. Then we're going to hear from Josué Hernandez, a CFRE ambassador, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of the CFRE. And then we have Rachelle Doyle and Christine Harris, who are two CFREs that are going to tell you about their experience with the exam. And I first just need to move this cat. Okay, there we go. All right, so we are going to talk about what is the CFRE. We are the only globally recognized and accredited credential for fundraising professionals. That is why having the CFRE means so much. You may have seen on job postings where it will say CFRE preferred. You may see after people's names that often are in leadership positions. Having the CFRE is a credential that really sets you up for having a wider body of fundraising knowledge, more confidence in your fundraising knowledge, and that helps you stand out to recruiters, your teammates, all of those good things. And I have a statistic here that 93% of CFREs that we surveyed last year reported that being a CFRE had earned them greater recognition with colleagues. We've been around since 1981. We've got great longevity in the space, and we are a rigorous program. Like I said, we're accredited, so we have had 40 years to perfect and make sure that this program performs. Everything we do is grounded in ethical best practice fundraising. When you're fundraising, you want to be sure that you are following best practices. You don't want to leave money on the table. You don't want to accidentally get yourself in trouble. You don't want to tell donors something that's incorrect, right? You want full assurance that you are fundraising according to ethical best practices. So that is what we are here for. There are more than 7,700 CFREs around the world. Many people enjoy being a CFRE because of the networking that they get to experience and what that unlocks. There are certain CFRE only events. Maybe you've seen those at different conferences. And we also have an online community that's just for CFREs, which is a great place where people learn about jobs or pick each other's brains for advice. So that is wonderful to get access to that worldwide network as a CFRE. Just real quickly, what is the difference between a degree and a credential? There are many degrees out there. Some of them are related to nonprofits, some of them aren't. But The difference with a credential like the CFRE is that you have to recertify every 3 years. Once you become a CFRE, every 3 years you renew. This is what keeps you current. So if you have a degree, think about the year you earned that degree and think about if it might be outdated now, right? I have a degree in advertising from 2005. That's 20 years old. It's horrendously out of date, right? A credential shows that your knowledge stays current. It's not locked into a year that you earned a degree or you completed a certificate program. Your knowledge is evergreen, your skills are refreshed, okay? And so no matter how long you've been in your career, if you're a CFRE, you are signaling that you are staying on top of changes in the industry and up to date on those best practices. All right, so now I am so pleased to welcome Joshua Hernandez. He is a CFRE ambassador in Long Beach, California. He became a CFRE in 2021, and he is going to tell you over the next 2 slides a bit about what the CFRE signifies, and he's going to be able to give this to you through the great lens of a person who's currently a CFRE. So welcome to the webinar.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ashley. It's great to be here. And first of all, I would like to start by saying I am very excited because I recently recertified my CFRE. And so this has been something I have been looking forward to since I first earned my CFRE in 2021. So I have stayed true to my commitment of continuously learning. And so that's part of the accountability that I set for myself as part of this bigger goal of pursuing the CFRE. And just a little bit about me, I work in the healthcare philanthropy arena within fundraising. And since I got my first day at work as a fundraiser at a small healthcare related organization, I set myself a goal of pursuing the CFRE. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. So as Ashley mentioned earlier, to start your application, that application is, I highly, highly recommend that you just go and start an account. That's the application. That's where you can start tracking all of your educational hours and start working towards becoming eligible to apply. I made a commitment to myself because this is the career, this is my dream job, and this is the career I see myself in, working for the rest of my life. And so I wanted to add those 4 letters after my name as a sign of commitment to this wonderful career. And so it's something that has allowed me to not only find opportunities work-wise, but also has allowed me to stay up to date in best practices. And what does that mean? Well, once I became eligible for the CFRE, I have to continue becoming eligible to be able to sort of recertify. So all these 3 areas that you might be familiar with, or you might become familiar after this webinar, is that you have to fulfill 3 areas, and one of them is educational hours. So that has allowed me to stay motivated to go to conferences, always be on the lookout for webinars that offer CFRE eligible credit points towards the educational hours. And lastly, the credibility. I think since I have earned my CFRE, it has allowed me to not only apply and get callbacks from jobs that I've applied to, but also in being able to command the salary that I feel comfortable accepting. One step further, in my current job, I am the Assistant Director of Donor Engagement, and every week my big supervisor asks me to join a weekly meeting with our major gift officers, and this is the major gift strategy meeting where he saw in me that I have something to bring to the table. My knowledge and expertise in donor prospecting, major prospecting. I oversee the donor pipeline. He has brought me into this meeting to be able to strategize on how to start narrowing down that pipeline for major gifts and planned gifts for the organization. I work for a hospital, regional hospital, that has 2 hospitals in one campus, one adult and one pediatric. And so we have a big, big task and a big responsibility to our community to be able to fundraise uh, important philanthropic dollars that affect over 200,000 patients that are seen on a yearly basis at our two hospitals. And so I feel very honored. And again, this is a certification that has allowed me to open up doors when I have applied to positions, but and also not only that, it has allowed me to be at the table with decision makers when it becomes time to make decisions and planning for those big gifts that support our organization. Now, what can the CFRE credential do for you? Well, allow me to share with you a little bit more. I mentioned a little bit about that recognition. On a regular basis, I get calls from recruiters. That's one thing, recruiters are always looking for, if you're looking for your next opportunity or if you're looking for growth opportunities, that's a way of standing out, having those four letters after your name. But that means so much more. As I mentioned, this has been, not only that has the CFRE allowed me to apply and get callbacks for jobs that I have applied to, but also it has helped me advance professionally. And this is a personal commitment that I've made, with myself. It's a personal challenge of continuing to stay up to date with best practices. This recognition is, let me just put that out there. I'm not a good test taker. And so just when I was planning about taking the CFRE exam, my nervousness, my anxiety over, I have to take a standardized test in order to be able to pass this exam. The pressure grows, right? But if I can do it, you can do it too. And again, this is a gift that keeps on giving. That has allowed me to build on my own confidence. And I say this because after I earned my CFRE and I earned my CFRE, my self-confidence grew. There is this, I recently was recognized by the AHP, Association for Healthcare Philanthropy, as one of 40 under 40 program. And so this is a nomination that I advocated for myself. I felt confident about the accomplishments that I had. I persuaded my supervisor to nominate me for this big recognition. And ultimately, I was recognized for it. And so again, it's just a stepping stone that allows you to open up more opportunities for yourself, and also allows you to build on your self-confidence to be able to move forward with your career.
Thank you so much for that, Josue. It was great to hear from you. And we're going to hear really quickly. I'm going to get into about the salary lift, and we're going to quickly hear from two other CFREs, and then we're going to start pulling apart the exam and getting all the good info about that. So, all right, CFREs in the US earn 5 to 16% more than non-CFREs with comparable experience. In Canada, that's 14%. This is the AFP 2023 compensation and benefits report data. So this is a third-party source of data. If you want to lift your salary, definitely look towards the CFRE. All right, and now we're going to hear from Rachelle Doyle, who's going to talk for a couple minutes about why she became a CFRE, and she is based in Sacramento, California, and has been a CFRE since last year. So this is all very fresh in her mind. All right, thanks, Rachelle.
Thank you. So yeah, just on the reasons why I became a CFRE, the first one is because of a lack of representation in fundraising. The CFRE 2022 certificate demographics list that 3% of CFRE applicants are Black, 3% are Hispanic or Latino, Latina or Latinx, and 2% are Asian, against our US population, where 13 to 14% of the population is Black, 19% is Hispanic, 7% is Asian. And I certainly feel this. Most of my colleagues are white, most of my donors are white. And why this matters is because sometimes my ideas have been challenged because people don't have the same background as I do, and they don't see things the same way as I do. My ideas might seem foreign or different. For all of our industries, we need to make sure that we're reaching out to as many people as possible, and a lot of our standards for cultivation and for stewardship are based on a homogenous group of people. I believe that I've left money on the table by not listening to different types of donors. And I believe that some of the ways that I still cultivate donors deserve to be challenged, and knowing the best practices helps. Also, having four letters at the end of my name gives people the opportunity to know that I come into the conversation as an accredited expert. The second reason is earning potential. Uh, we just saw that the CFRE cites that mid-career fundraisers can earn from 5 to 16% more. And I have not yet had this realized, as I just got my CFRE in November. However, as I continue in my career and as I live in California, income is a factor in my life. I hope that this certification can signify to prospective employers or my current employer that I'm professional, that I've gone through training, and I've gone through validation because this work is important to me. The final reason is that it was time. I waited until the 11th hour. I had started in fundraising in 2018, and I received a certificate in fundraising from UC Davis. And luckily, at some point, I just logged that into info into CFRE because I would have forgotten, but they sent me an email saying that my units were expiring, and I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. So that's what got me here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachelle. All right, and then we're going to hear from Christine, and then right after Christine, we will get right into that exam. So Christine Harris is joining us from Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada, and she became a CFRE last year as well. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you, Ashley. Good morning, everyone. I became a CFRE for 3 reasons also. I wanted to rejuvenate my career. I spent the last few years of just feeling really, quite honestly, really burned out from COVID and moving countries and changing jobs. And I felt like becoming familiar with the knowledge in the CFRE study guides would really help me feel like I loved my job again, and it certainly has done that. My work is incredibly supportive. A lot of us have CFREs here. I took the exam and didn't need to book any time off. They often host webinars for us to do as a group, so I was able to take time to get the credits I needed to apply in the first place. And that's been a really great experience. And I was reimbursed for my exam fee, which also really helped a lot. And also, I confess I borrowed the third point from Rachelle. It was time. I became a fundraiser. I got my first job in 2008, and I felt like it's time to do this. And similar, I had some credits expiring. I didn't want to start from scratch, so I took the plunge and have done the exam, and it was a great experience. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you, Christine. Excellent. All right, we're going to launch a quick poll because a lot of people say, I can't do this because it's been too long since I took an exam. So our poll is open. Let us know when you last took an exam. We're going to see where we all shake out. Okay, I'm going to close the poll in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, great. All right, and let's look at what we have here. Can you all see the results? So I just want you to know that no matter where you are, most people are in the exact same boat as you. A lot of us have not taken an exam in a very long time. So please don't let that deter you. It is a common thing. All right. Now, let's go. So the CFRE exam, it's offered during 4 test windows every year. When you submit your application, you will select the test window that you want to take the exam in. And then you'll note that You can take the exam any month of the year except December. So this is just for your planning purposes, back out when you think you want to study, pick a window where you think you're not going to be stressed by work or your personal life, and keep that in mind. So the CFRE exam is compiled of questions that apply globally. So it doesn't matter where you work, they're going to apply. Now, this does not mean that we're asking you about anything country specific, and I'm going to show you some sample questions today. And this is going to kind of illuminate that better. But what it means is the questions are about best practice fundraising. We're not going to ask you about donor receipt laws in Brazil, right? Everything is going to be stuff that's going to be applicable to you in your day-to-day life. We do refresh the questions on the exam periodically. That's partially for exam security and to make sure that all of our questions are current and that they still apply. The exam is available in English and it uses universally understood terms. We don't have our own terms. We're not inventing terms. These are all going to be things that you have heard and are familiar with. The exam is created by a job task analysis. Every 5 to 7 years, we do a massive survey of fundraising professionals worldwide, and we ask them, what are you doing in your job? What tasks are you performing? How often are you doing them? And how critical are they to your fundraising success? This information is what we build the exam off of. So we know that the questions we're asking actually have to do with what fundraising professionals need to know today. So everything is going to serve you well. The exam is completely computer-based and it is written at the 5-year practice level. Now, you can become a CFRE with 3 years of experience. You will need to study a little more, and I'll talk about that in a couple of slides. But if you have 5 years or more of fundraising experience, know that that's where the exam is written at, assuming that you have 5 years of paid professional fundraising experience. We want to set you up for success on this exam in every way possible. You have 4 hours to take the exam. Most people finish in under 3. You will not be rushed. You will not be stressed from that aspect. I hope you're not stressed, period, after we finish the webinar today, but I want you to know when you get to the exam itself, you are going to be allotted plenty of time. You can check your answers. You can move back and forth in the exam. The exam is 200 multiple choice questions. Each question has 4 answer options. This is fabulous because the correct answer is staring back at you. There are no open-ended questions. There are no essay questions. The correct answer is on the screen and you will select it. We are looking for the best answer of the best practice. This is super important to keep in mind because a very common issue people have is they begin to answer the exam questions for how they personally fundraise at their organization. You all work at magnificent organizations, but if your organization for some reason does something that is not aligned with globally accepted best practices, answering for how your organization does something is not going to necessarily be the strategy you want to use, right? We know there's ingrained habits. Your executive director says you have to do something one way, but the CFRE process, the studying and the prep for it is what is going to help you have that knowledge of today's current best practices. So you don't leave money on the table, so that you can have efficient donor conversations, all of that good stuff. There is no rote memorization. You're not going to be asked to memorize 400 definitions like I had to do when I took a marketing credential exam. So you are off the hook for that. The exam questions come across 6 knowledge domains. So these are the areas that the job task analysis has found to be key to fundraising professionals performing their jobs today. You can see here that securing the gift and relationship building are over half the exam. That's because these are so core to your success as a fundraiser, right? You have to be able to secure gifts. You have to be able to build relationships. You can see here as well, leadership and management makes up a large part as well, because as a CFRE, you want to be a leader, you want to have that responsibility, manage a team, you want to be set up for success with that. We're going to look at this practice question together. This question does not appear on the live exam. You do not need to type your answer anywhere. You can just have it in your mind. So we're going to review this together, and it's going to give you a sense of what I mean by a question that applies globally. In preparation of the case statement, which of the following pieces of important information should be included first? 1, specific objectives and goals of the organization. 2, mission statement of the organization. 3, environmental issues affecting the organization. Or 4, specific problems and needs addressed by the organization. So I'll give you a few seconds to think on that. All right, everybody have your answer in mind? And the best practice is to start off your case statement with the mission statement, right? Because that mission statement affirms everything about your organization, right? That's the building block 1 of your organization, your mission statement. Okay. The exam is scored across a range. It's 200 to 800 points, and the pass point is 500. Look at those numbers, and I want you to breathe a very big breath of relief. You don't have to have a perfect score, right? Don't worry when you take the exam. I know I got that one question wrong. What have I done? There is room for you to not have every answer be correct, right? You have the 500 point is the pass point. So feel good about that. Now we're going to talk about studying and all of the different tools and resources out there for you. I want you to keep in mind that because every person who comes to this exam has different experience, right? You might have 3 years experience, you might have 25 years experience. Some people may have more of a major gifts background. Some people might have more of a digital fundraising background. There's not a one size fits all study plan as a result of that, right? Because you know what you know, and the CFRE process is designed to help you fill your fundraising knowledge gaps, okay? If you've been managing volunteers for 28 years, you probably don't need to devote a lot of study time to that area, right? If you've never managed volunteers, that's going to be an area of focus. So keep that in mind, and we're going to take a great look at how you will get your studying underway. We have a test content outline. This is your directory of every single topic on the exam. It is divided into those 6 knowledge domains that we just reviewed. The best thing you can do is print this off of our website, grab a highlighter, and highlight all of the areas you've not directly worked in or that you don't feel confident you could answer an exam question on. That is going to inform your study plan and what you need to study. We are very, very, very transparent about every topic that you're going to find on this exam. There are no trick questions. Nothing is going to come out of left field. Then on our website, we have a resource reading list. This has 4 comprehensive books. If you say, Ashley, I just want to buy 1 book and I want to have done with it, and that's what I'm going to use to study, you can select any of these 4 books. You might already have them. You might be able to borrow one from a colleague. Your library might have one. I'm incredibly cheap in my personal life, so I totally understand. It's great to have options, and you can find the most affordable or low-cost one for you. With that in mind, I want to let you know that far and away, the most popular book people are reading to prepare for this exam is Achieving Excellence in Fundraising 5th edition. It's on your screen right now, and I'm going to put the link to it on Amazon through the chat because good news, it is on sale today. So you're going to see in my screenshot here, there is, let's see if I can get this little thing to pop up. It is 30% off right now on the Amazon US website. Unfortunately, it is not on sale on the Canadian website today, but if you want to get 1 book, and this is the book everybody's reading, this is the one. This is also considered the gold standard in fundraising right now. We have a question about, is the 5th fifth edition much more different than the fourth. They have made some significant updates, so we do recommend that you use the fifth edition. We have a glossary on our website. This is the language of the exam. So, I told you we're very open and transparent with you about everything on the exam, and I'm going to put this into the chat real quick. This is a PDF. You can download it. This is where you're going to have your first port of call with the studying, is you want to review this glossary so you know precisely what the questions are asking you. If you have any anxiety about, well, I'm in this corner of Canada, do they use the same terms on the exam? I'm based in Europe, we use this term. This glossary is going to answer all of that. We're going to tell you exactly what we mean when we use the various terms. Okay, we also have a free study plan template on our website. This is great for people that are like me and get anxiety that they've missed a step. This will walk you through step by step how to formulate your study plan. I'm just going to put this through the chat now as well if you want to access it. It is a PDF. It's in the exam prep section of our website. But know that if you want to break everything down, okay, what is step 1? I need to look at the test content outline. What is step 2? I need to do this. How many hours am I going to study? How am I going to break my study plan up? This template will guide you. We also offer a practice exam. This is a paid product. It is a subscription. It has 320 questions. This is so good if you are nervous about taking an exam. This will take that edge off because you can take 10-question mini quizzes. You can take 100-question exams. This is going to get you back in that test-taking frame of mind. Okay, I'm looking at these multiple choice questions. I'm going to figure out what's the distractor. I'm going to narrow it down. This is going to help with that. You can use it as much as you want in the subscription period. Some of the questions are retired off of the CFRE exam, not because they weren't good or they're no longer relevant, but for exam security, we do refresh questions. So you can get your eyes on exactly the kind of questions that the exam asks, in the sense of how are they worded, how am I going to come to these and read through them and process them. So the CFRE practice exam is $59.95 for a 30-day subscription and $99.95 if you want a 90-day subscription. Now, I'll put the link through the chat for this too. 100%, you don't have to have this. If you don't want to pay the money, that's totally fine. But I want you to know that it's available if you want to get back in that test-taking rhythm. We also have, someone's asked if the practice exam has flashcards. It does come with digital flashcards, yes. The Exam Compass Study Guide, this is for folks who love an old school workbook style of learning. This sits you down with the practice questions. It's got test-taking advice specifically for the CFRE exam. It includes all the information about the resource reading list. It has a printout of the test content outline. So if you really like analog things, this is a great tool. It's $49.95. You can get it off Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. All right, study groups. I love study groups. People tell me I loved my study group because it kept me motivated, it kept me accountable, and I expanded my network. There are many free study groups out there, and we have a study groups page on our website. AFP Calgary and AFP Newfoundland and Labrador are both offering free online study groups in the first 2 quarters of this year. If you're in the US, you can still join them if you want, but there's also a study group run by a CFRE ambassador named Jack Alato. Jack Alato runs a free study group on Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. to noon Pacific time. Many people who have successfully become CFREs have gone through this study group. So if you want to, if you're kind of like, ugh, it's really easy for life to get in the way and for me to procrastinate, a study group is a perfect way to keep yourself moving forward. All right, how long should I study? We surveyed our CFREs, so they all successfully studied. That's how they got to become CFREs. How long did they study? There is a very big sweet spot between 40 and 80 hours. It's not going to take your life over. You're not going to have to cancel your vacation. It's a manageable amount of time to study. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about when you want to take the exam, how you're going to back your date out, you know, from your prep time. 40 to 80 hours is what we recommend. All right, so let's hear from somebody who has a great study plan and is going to tell you all about how she did it. So let's welcome back Rachelle and take it away.
Thank you. So how I studied, I actually went out and bought all of the things, and I think that this was more of a panic move for me. And I don't think that you need to, so I'll just go over the ones that I really recommend. The first was Achieving Excellence in Fundraising. I found this to be an all-encompassing great book that I am going to use into the future. I really value that book, and I think it was more than just a resource to pass the test. The second was a CFRE Exam Compass. This book was great because specifically they had a list of definitions, they had some practice questions. The practice exam was a great resource for me. And one tip on that, I didn't overtake the practice exam because I didn't want to. I was advised by colleagues not to memorize the exam, but instead to work on the content. Study groups were invaluable. We would go through each domain and go through definitions, take sort of, work on concepts together. And I also took the AFP refresher course. And I think we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So my studying advice is number one, find out what you need to study. We all learn in different ways. And I think you have to honor that and find out what it is that you need, whether you're more visual or whether you want to research podcasts and listen to those on the way to work or whatever. I needed external accountability. So people were a really great part of the process for me. I think I made friends that I'll be connected to for a really long time through my study groups. My second piece of advice would be to plan, then plan again. That study guide that you have to create for yourself. I made one 8 weeks out, and then it included things like what days, what chapters, what domains I was going to be going over, what days I needed to rest my brain. And then at 6 weeks, I reevaluated it. At 1 month, I reevaluated it. At 2 weeks, I reevaluated it because things would drop off. We're all busy people. The last piece is find your people. And that's probably my most valuable piece of advice. The study groups, I took Jackalotos, it was invaluable. And through that community that was built, there was a bunch of other nuggets that came out. I remember somebody saying, hey, go to the center where you're taking your test a week beforehand and ask to see your space. And I did that because a big part of this, all these strategies are designed to calm me down internally, because while we're learning so much, I'm also testing my ability to push past being nervous and being afraid. The AFP was a good resource for finding people. Facebook was a good resource for finding people, and really taking opportunities in big conversations like this to type in the chat, okay, here's my email address. If anybody wants to create a study group, then please feel free to reach out to me. By the end, I was in 3 different study groups that I was meeting with one night a week each to kind of cram. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachelle. And now we are going to hear from Christine Harris about how she studied.
Thanks, Ashley. I started studying about 11 weeks before the exam, and I wrote it at the end of November. So I started in September. I did that because I had a holiday planned during that time, and I also ended up getting COVID. So I was out for a couple of weeks. So I built in some extra time because I knew there were going to be nights where I just couldn't look at a screen or I was just too tired. I talked to a lot of other colleagues and friends that have written it, and like Rachelle got some good advice. I think I studied maybe for 60 hours. That is just an estimation because I don't really remember exactly, but I definitely gave myself more time than I ended up needing, so that the week before, the week that I wrote the exam, I had time to just review and not feel like I had to cram about things I hadn't learned yet. The resources I used were the textbook, the Achieving Excellence in Fundraising book that Ashley's mentioned. The study guide also was really helpful. The tips for studying and what to expect. I always like to know what I'm getting myself into. So knowing what to expect on the day was really helpful as well. I really appreciated the practice exams because they made me realize that there were things I was spending too much time studying that I knew better than I thought I did, or vice versa, some areas I didn't know as well as I thought I did. And the wording of the exams I found really helpful to become familiar with that, how they're worded, and really focusing on what is the best answer, because they're going to try and trick me. I know they will. There is only one right answer. Thanks, Ashley. My studying advice: forget what you know. I've been fundraising for about 18 years, and I've been in lots of scenarios where I was going through the exam questions and thinking about what I would do in a situation, or what if this, or what if that. You really have to just focus on what the question is asking and not overthink it. I found myself overthinking things constantly, so I had to actually stop myself from doing that. I realized also when I was doing the practice exam questions that I did poorly on the areas that I have been fundraising in for over a decade, like major gifts in particular. So that was quite surprising to me. And I realized I needed to stop overthinking it and thinking more about how I would be maybe 5 years ago in my fundraising practice, how I would answer that question. The practice exam question is very helpful. Be kind to yourself. Like I said before, there were sometimes I just couldn't open the textbook. I needed to take a night off, and I did that, and I found I had more energy for the next night. Or I was planning on studying for 2 hours, but after 1 hour I was done. I just stopped because I knew I wasn't going to be successful after that first hour. And when it comes right down to it, I knew I really just needed to pass the exam, and that stuck in my mind as well. I wasn't worried about passing an exam like I was in university, and I remembered how stressed I was for those exams, and this process was fairly straightforward in the end when I followed my plan and just kept myself going. You can all do it. I know you can. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you. And thank you for your good motivation there. All right, so we're going to stop and answer 2 questions, and then we're going to keep moving. So, Paul, what are 2 popular questions that we're getting, or things we should answer on air?
Right. So I did have a question. I believe it was Rachelle, were you the one who was saying you listened to podcasts as part of your exam preparation?
I did, and I'm
Yes.
looking up the name of the one that I listened to. It's put on by the Lilly School of Philanthropy, I believe.
Mm,
So I'm gonna find it, and then I'm gonna type it in the chat.
great, thanks. One other question. Let's see. So we received this one a couple of times. Uh, Can you supplement an area on the application? And this is in terms of meeting the requirements to sit for the exam. If you have an excess of points in one category, can you use that in place of fulfilling the requirement for another section on the application?
Unfortunately, no, we are accredited, so everybody needs to meet the same requirements. So you cannot use an excess of points in one area to help you out in another. All right, let's keep going. We're going to look at our second practice question. Foundation prospects for an organization are best identified by the geographic scope of the foundation, its granting criteria, and the foundation's 1, board, 2, capacity for grants, 3, most recent award, or 4, previous giving history. So when you're coming to this question, you're thinking, okay, for a grant, when I'm doing my research and there's a foundation, what am I looking at that's going to give me the best avenue to be successful? All right, so everybody have your answer in mind? And it's previous giving history, right? If you are raising funds for a children's playground, you're not going to go to a foundation that works, that's just been awarding to animal charities or something completely unrelated, right? You're always going to be wanting to know what the previous giving history was. Anxiety, it's real, we all have it, but I want you to feel zen and composed and great about the CFRE exam. I hope I'm doing that on this webinar. One of the biggest sources for anxiety in our lives is that we haven't adequately prepared for something. If you do the studying and you don't cut corners and you take the time, you are going to feel good and prepared when you go into the exam. Study those 40 to 80 hours. You heard Christine say she was at about 60. This is a real sweet spot for people. Remind yourself that in this moment, you have never been smarter or more experienced than you are right now. You are taking an exam about your chosen profession. This isn't like when you were at university and you took an astronomy elective for some reason and you're, like, ugh, all the information I have about it, I've just learned this semester. No, this is what you do day in, day out. This is your career. You are coming to this with a fabulous foundation of knowledge. Some people come up to me at conferences and say, I was such a bad test taker. I'm not good with tests. But we saw through the poll, most of us haven't taken an exam in a very long time, right? So it's easier now to be more rational, to be more thoughtful with your studying, and to remember that, this is an exam based on so much of what you already are doing. Then remind yourself that there's ample time. When you come to this exam, you don't need to rush. We don't want you to rush, and that's why we give you the 4 hours. Some people take the full 4 hours and they, look everything over 2 times, but do your own style, but just know we're giving you plenty of time. If you have dyslexia or you need an accommodation, something like that, that's going to impact your ability to take the exam, reach out to us about 2 months before you take the exam and we'll be happy to work with you. We want you to have a good test taking experience. Here's some advice for the day before the exam to set yourself up for success. Consider taking the day off work. CFRE in Pittsburgh gave me this advice. She said, even if you take it on a Saturday, take the Friday off work. You want to get your mind into a good, calm place before. You don't want anything throwing you off your game. Reread your notes and the glossary one more time. Remember that in studying, people absorb information better when they write it out than versus highlighting in a book. Write your notes out, and that will also prepare you to have a great little notebook to read through that last day before the exam. Know how you're going to get to the test center. Many people love to do a dry run. They want to see where they're going to park. They want to make sure there's not any construction on the way that Google Maps doesn't know about. It just can really help you feel calmer on test day. Remember that you have to get to the testing appointment 45 minutes early for the check-in process. All right, now, when it comes to taking the exam, you've got 2 options. One is from your home or office with a product called OnView. So this is on your own computer, or at a Pearson VUE test center. Please, please, please go to the test center. I cannot stress this enough. If you have a mobility issue or there just simply is not one near you, consider OnView. The test center is much more comfortable because you can get up and use the restroom whenever you want. You can get up and have a drink of water from the cooler whenever you want. When you're at home, you are not allowed to do this for exam security reasons because they don't want you leaving the camera in front of your computer and looking up notes or having notes stashed around. So it's a much more comfortable experience. Also, we have had a candidate test from home, and with 9 questions left to go, his home internet dropped out. So don't put that burden on yourself. Go to the test center. They look like this. There will be noise canceling headphones or earplugs. There are security cameras, and that's just to really ensure the exam security, that people aren't hiding notes and that kind of thing. To find your nearest test center, go to this URL on your screen, pearsonview.com/CFRE. Then you will type in, you'll see a little thing on the side that says Find Test Center. You're going to type in your postal code or your zip code. It will generate a page that looks like this. I've run this for Toronto. You can see the map of where the test centers are. You can see the list. So this will help you feel good. You have, full ability to take your exam from any Pearson VUE test center that you like, that's convenient to you. Now, when you're taking the exam, I want you to keep in mind that there is a 10-minute break. Now, how this works is you will take questions 1 through 100, and then you can move back and forth within them, check your work, and then you will have the option to start a 10-minute break. Once this break starts, you cannot go back to questions 1 through 100 for security reasons, because when you're on a break, they don't want people looking things up and changing their answers. This 10-minute break is your time where the clock is not running. Use the restroom, take medication, have a drink of water, whatever you want. It's give your brain a little bit of a break, and then you will be given access to the second half of the exam. And when you finish those questions and you've reviewed them and you feel good about them, you will hit submit. Okay. When you finish, you'll get your score pretty much immediately, but within 48 hours, you'll get an email from us, 48 business hours. Hey, we got your score. Congratulations, you're a CFRE. You will get a digital badge in 1 week that you can use to announce your achievement to your LinkedIn and Twitter networks. And at the end of each of those test windows, we are going to mail you the hard copy of your certificate. This, like I said, it's the end of the test window. So it's, if you become a CFRE in the start of the test window, there will be a little bit of a delay because we mail them in one batch. All right, so we are going to use the rest of the time for Q&A. I do want to encourage you, though, that April 15th is our next application deadline. You can obviously submit your application today. You can submit any day of the year that you want, but our next deadline is April 15th. If you are looking to take the exam before July, this is when you want to get your application in. From the time you submit your application, you have up to 1 year to take the exam. So keep that in mind, that we provide you with a lot of study time and prep. So you have full control over when you take the exam, and you're going to have ample time to get ready. So let's go back to Paul and see what is on people's minds.
Thanks, Ashley. So I had a great question here. Are there stats on the typical demand for CFREs in the job market, and what are the titles typically related to those in-demand jobs?
So we don't have a survey of that because we don't have a way to look at all job openings for development professionals and be able to have that kind of statistic. So unfortunately, we don't hold that data, but we see many CFRE preferred on job listings. I've heard a number of people tell me that that's why they became a CFRE, was because they kept seeing CFRE preferred in those job listings. But let that salary lift statistic, right, 5 to 16% in the US and 14% in Canada, be a guide for you to how employers value CFREs and recognize them financially.
Thanks. This is a really good question. Is it better to complete the application using the email of the organization I work for, or should I use a personal email account?
Personal email. If you leave your organization for some reason, we don't want to run the risk that you're not getting reminders from us, or if your application comes in and we have a question about it, we want to always be able to reach you.
Great. We've been getting a few questions on re-exam. Is there a waiting period, and do you have to resubmit the application or pay again?
Okay, so I do want to first say this is a very common question. I think people start worrying about what's going to happen if they don't pass the exam before they've even started an application or started studying. So I would really like you to come to this with a mindset that you're going to be successful and that you are going to set yourself up for success by properly preparing. If you are unsuccessful on the exam, there is a 30-day wait period before you can take the exam again. There is a $375 retake fee. I've had people say, Ashley, that is steep. We want it to be a motivator for people to not just rock up to the test center and not prepare, right? You want to pass the exam the first time. We want you to pass the exam the first time. So try not to worry too much about going down the route of not passing, but that is information about it.
Great. Let's see. Are any of the resources books available in audio?
Not that I'm aware of, but you can always go to audible.com and put in the names of those books. The resource reading list is on our website in the exam prep section. So if you go to CFRE.org, exam prep, and then you can, in the drop down, see the resource reading list there.
Thanks. Let's see. So this one is related to documentation for the application and a few questions. What kind of documentation is required, and is it necessary to provide the documentation with every session that they've included?
No. So when you are filling out your application, there's an education section where you're going to log the education that you've attended. We go back 5 years. So right now we're going back to January 1st, 2019. All the conferences, webinars, master classes, panel discussions, all of that good stuff is going to count that's fundraising related, as long as it's since January 1, 2019 and at least 45 minutes long. So when you are filling that part out of the application, if you have a registration confirmation email, a certificate of attendance, some kind of proof, you're welcome to upload it, but it is not required.
Great. This one is related to the exam. So how many different time slots are there available to schedule the exam, and how soon after the exam do we get a score?
So you're going to have to check your individual test center for that. Keep in mind, because you have 4 hours for the exam. Most people, if your test center closes at 5, you're probably gonna not want to go in any later than 1 p.m. But every test center is going to be different. So you'll need to go to that pearsonview.com/CFRE, find your test center, and then go there and check that out. And what was the second part of that question, Paul?
What is the turnaround time for receiving the score?
You'll usually get it there. There could be a delay of up to 48 hours, but that's not really the norm.
Great. Let's see. How many CFRE holders are there?
7,700.
Perfect. Let's see. When you're adding conferences to the application, is it best to break out every session or just consolidate them into a single entry?
1 entry per conference. So don't worry about telling us every session or every speaker that you saw at a conference. You can simply just make 1 entry as a whole for the conference.
Great. And one more time, can you remind everyone of the cost for the exam and the application fees?
Sure. So the application is $700. That is if you're a member of a participating organization. So if you're an AFP member, AHP, Canadian Association of Gift Planners, Charitable Gift Planners, NACDO, NATO, that is all inclusive. That includes you testing. You will not be charged anything to test. That $700 covers the application review, your test center fees, the digital badge, and us printing and mailing your certificate.
Great. And I think this will be the last question. How do you change the exam date once you've been approved to test and if you feel that you're not ready to sit for the exam?
So there's a US $35 fee to switch your test window after you've submitted your application. And then you'll go through, there'll be instructions, but you'll need to go do that through Pearson VUE, because effectively, once you schedule your exam, you're not in our system anymore. You've scheduled it with Pearson VUE, so it's going to be through theirs.
Great.
And I just saw one last question here. What's the breakdown of men versus women who are CFREs? 76% of CFREs are women. And I think a large reason for that is because the salary gap, unfortunately, is very real for women. And so having the CFRE when you go for your next job interview or promotion is a great way to leverage it to get the pay that you are looking to achieve. All right. Well, I know that we are at time. I just want to thank everybody for joining. It's been so wonderful to see your questions. A massive thank you to Josue Hernandez, and Rachelle Doyle, and Christine Harris. I hope that we see you again on a future webinar. And again, don't forget to create your application. Once we have an application created from you, we can let you know about promotions, like when we have the study guide available for free when you submit your application, and all kinds of other good news. So take care, and I wish you all the best for a great CFRE experience. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.